So Diana Taurasi retired from the WNBA yesterday. And obviously she is one of the greats ever. Like, she is one of the greatest female basketball players to ever play, if not the greatest. Like, there are arguments to be made for Taurasi. There are arguments to be made for the likes of Tamika Catchings. There are plenty of arguments to be made for plenty of players, but by most people's estimations, Diana Taurasi is the GOAT. And which is the reason why, link in the description, for the merch, we brought in the DT range for the merch. So we got long sleeve t-shirts, we got our premium t-shirts, we got a hoodie, and we have got just the normal, the orange t-shirt. But yeah, we got the DT range. But yeah, so the thing with Taurasi is Taurasi was one of the very few players that transcended like women's basketball. And not Maya Moore didn't do it. Like any of the other players in the GOAT conversation, Taurasi was just around long enough and she was like a big enough name. Yes, Maya Moore was exceptional. Maya Moore wasn't as well known as Taurasi. Sue Bird was not as well known as Taurasi. Tamika Catchings was not as well known as Taurasi. Lauren Jackson was obviously not as well known as Taurasi. And by the way, during all this, we need to talk about the old players. I've heard not one mention of Lauren Jackson, by the way. Everyone's saying, oh, we need to remember the old players. These people, I mean, I think it's very specific. Like, they want us to acknowledge, people are saying to acknowledge all the old players, but I mean, they're picking and choosing because I've not heard one of those stop disrespecting old players in WNBA and learn about the history ever mention Lauren Jackson. But yeah, but like the thing with Taurasi is, if you haven't seen, like, LeBron James has been talking about her, and like I've seen that idiot that I'm not even going to name talking about how nobody would have cared about Diana Taurasi retiring if it wasn't for Caitlin Clark. And I'm like, as one of Caitlin Clark's biggest defenders, there are times you should know when to shut the fuck up. Like, Diana Taurasi is Diana Taurasi. Sarah, just seeing her transcend the game, watching little girls want to play just like her flair, her bravado, her swagger, it's been unbelievable. She's one of the all-time greatest. It's always fun being around her. She keeps you on your toes. She's just a super competitor, no matter men or women. She's one of the fiercest competitors I've ever met. Ever spent time with. She's a champion. She's a warrior. And that's the thing when it comes to Diana Taurasi, is that, like, players, like, I'm pretty sure, did Kobe call her the White Mamba? Am I right in saying that? That Kobe called her the White Mamba? And like with that one, yeah, like Kobe literally referred to her as the White Mamba. Like that, and that's the thing where it's like people are saying, "Oh, it's only like she's only known as Caitlin Clark." That is one of the dumbest things you can say. Like, if you want to make, like, I don't think it's true with Angel Reese. Obviously, she's been gone into complete mainstream because of that. But like, we can't say like she wasn't leading in NIL money before the Caitlin Clark that incident. But you can even, like, there is some merit to the fact that Caitlin Clark has boomed Angel Reese, but there's no merit to the fact that Caitlin Clark is the reason why we're talking about Taurasi. This is Diana Taurasi. Like, this is somebody who has got the freaking Kobe endorsement. First. She was one of the first female players to get the Kobe endorsement. She's there with, like, young LeBron James. Like, you've now got, like, speeches honoring Diana Taurasi. You have literally got the former Phoenix mayor talking about Diana Taurasi. Like, that's just one of those things where it's like, for lack of a better word, aura is to be used. And Taurasi whether she was the greatest ever on a game-by-game basis, she played 20 years. There's nobody that's been more synonymous with the WNBA. There's not. Like, as great as Cheryl Swoops was, as great as Lisa Leslie was, as great as Tamika Catchings was, again, as great as Lauren Jackson, do not forget about Lauren Jackson, we're talking about all-time great conversations, as great as Aja Wilson is right now, there's not going to be another Taurasi. There's just not. Candace Parker as well. Not really. But there's not going to be another Taurasi. There's not. There's just not. Like, as great as Caitlin Clark is going to be, And I think Caitlin Clark could end up surpassing Taurasi, but I don't see Caitlin Clark playing 20 seasons. I just don't see it happening. I don't see her winning 6 Olympic golds, especially because the reason why Taurasi has 6 Olympic golds is because they picked her over Caitlin Clark this year. I don't see that happening. Do I see Caitlin Clark entering the GOAT conversation? Yeah, I do. But I think Caitlin Clark's going to win more MVPs than Taurasi. I think she's going to win multiple championships. I think she's going to average more points per game over her career than Taurasi. So I think she's going to enter the debates, but it's just like saying there's never going to be another LeBron James, because there's never going to be somebody who is going to play 23 plus seasons averaging 27 points per game. It's never going to happen. And play almost every game. That will never happen in the history of basketball again. And there's almost certainly never going to be another Diana Taurasi. And especially like in a time when women's basketball was at its lowest point, the like mid to late 2010s, Diana Taurasi was earning $1 million a year playing in Russia. Like when women's basketball was at its lowest point, Taurasi was making $1 million a year. Like Taurasi was going out in her late 30s, averaging 20 points per game, and leading the Mercury to the WNBA finals in 2021. Still cannot believe they lost to the Sky, but still, like that is the player that Taurasi was. And no, like of all players in the WNBA, you cannot argue that Caitlin Clark made Taurasi famous. Like it's the dumbest argument I've seen. Like, is Caitlin Clark the most famous women's basketball player of all time? Yes. Yes, she is. Even just in this one year, yes. But prior to Caitlin Clark, the most famous WNBA player ever was Taurasi. Like, Taurasi was a household name if you watched basketball. Whether that be, even if you never turned on a WNBA game, and I know someone in the comment section is going to be like, I don't never heard Taurasi this year. Okay. Then you may not have even been a basketball fan. You could not have been a basketball fan at all without knowing who Diana Taurasi is. She was the player that transcended the WNBA. Obviously, not to the extent of Caitlin Clark. No one has ever done it to the extent of Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark's the most famous basketball player in the world, period, right now, outside of LeBron and Steph Curry. But Diana Taurasi was one of the very few players post-initial boom, as in the WNBA had all that hype in 1997 and kind of leading into the early 2000s. Post-initial WNBA boom, there was one player that transcended the WNBA on the court, and it was Taurasi. Not Maya Moore, not Della Dawn, not Brittany Griner, on the court anyway. Not Sylvia Fowles, not Candace Parker. As much as if you were into basketball, you would know who these people are. If you were really into the sport, you know who these people are. Everyone knew who Diana Taurasi was. But anyway, yeah. See you guys.